Thank you guys for joining us for this webinar. We are so blessed and excited to be joined by Ples Montgomery IV and Mike Luster. They both work at Hort Americas, as Georgianne mentioned, and they also are leaders within the Oak Cliff Veggie Project. And so today they're going to talk a little bit about their experience through Oak Cliff Veggie Project and the mission of Oak Cliff Veggie Project, and also how to start your own community garden. So from their firsthand experience in Dallas. So with that, Ples and Mike, you want to take it away and tell us just a little bit about Oak Cliff Veggie Project, please?
All right, absolutely. Am I coming through clearly?
Perfect, yes.
Okay, cool. So just a little bit about the history of the Oak Cliff Veggie Project. I'm actually the co-founder. It was originally started by my mother, Betty Montgomery, who in like 2015, I believe it was, that she wanted to make a healthy impact on the community, understanding that where we were living was most commonly referred to as a food desert. And being a nurse for many years, she understood the incidences of high blood pressure and hypertension and that sort of thing that kind of were prevalent in the community. And in wanting to do something about that, she decided to start a food distribution. And she started that by using our own we use our own money to purchase from an online food co-op called Bountiful Baskets, and set up a sign that said free produce and started giving that out, as well as some other health-related information to the community, some resources where they could find out about living a healthier lifestyle within the community. So again, that was in 2015, and then in about 2017 or so is when I was able to come in and, based on my work schedule, come in and help out, and kind of went about finding some more resources so that we could increase the impact that we were making. And I was able to be at the right meetings at the right times. And then also a wonderful woman in the community, pillar in the community, Miss Andrea Sanders. She found out about what we were doing, and we were a part of we were able to participate in the Dallas Veg Fest, which is a one-of-a-kind type of health fair event that happens in the southern sector of Dallas. And from there, that very next year, we started our first community garden with the help of the Dallas Mayor Star Council and some donations from Big Tech Urban Farms. And since then, we have opened up another 6 or so community garden spaces, very small, intimate spaces, but nonetheless very impactful for the community. And this is how we have expanded our operations of the food distribution portion, so that instead of doing just about maybe once a month, we now run it every weekend. And on some weekends, it is both on Saturday and Sunday. So on the screen there, you're seeing some images of what where we're located and what the food distribution looks like. Kind of the bags that you get. It's usually about a 30 to now. At this point, it's about a 30 to 45-pound bag that is pre-prepared with the help of our wonderful volunteer network that we have built over the years with this program. Some of the produce is donated. Some of it is still purchased from some of our local wholesale distributors. We partner with Big Tech Urban Farms, with Eden Green Technologies, with We Over Me Farms at Paul Quinn, with Harvest Project Food Rescue. So some of the produce that we get in is fresh. Some of it is rescue produce, and then we purchase some. We also purchase some produce as well. So we get a nice, healthy mix of both fruits and vegetables in bags that we're able to give out to the community members. Originally, it started as kind of a farmer's market style, where you came up and got a bag and you were able to pick out what you liked. Then as of course, last year we had the advent of the pandemic, and we had to move into the style of drive-through style. So the bags were being pre-made and assembled for the folks, the families that are in need of that produce. On the screen now, you're seeing this is the homepage for oakcliffveggieproject.org. We just launched this not last year, sorry. Just launched this last month, and it is very kind of bare bones right now, but you got to start somewhere. And so you can find out get a basic overview of what we do, where we do it, why we do it, and how you can sign up there to get involved, and then also make a donation as well. And we will be having, starting this weekend, we'll be having, we got some fresh merchandise in, some Oak Cliff Veggie Project shirts. So that'll be a way to make a small donation of about like $25, and you can get a shirt with that donation. So that's a basic overview of again, of what we do. And we have plenty of opportunities. That being said, we have plenty of opportunities for everyone to come out and volunteer.
That's awesome. And so one of the things that I really love about Oak Cliff Veggie Project that everyone loves is you're not just rescuing food and handing it out to the community. You are teaching them skills, empowering the community, growing, cultivating that community through the community gardens, and building more community gardens throughout Dallas. Could you talk a little bit more about how that all started and the specific gardens as we go through here?
Yeah, so what you see on the screen here now is it says the Singing Hills Community Garden. This was the site that we first got started at with the food distribution, and then our first community garden. There's some very nice pictures there of showing what it looks like. Those raised bed boxes there were donated from Big Tex Urban Farms via the Dallas Mayor-Star Council. You see some tables and fencing that was put in there. That was brought in through a partnership with a wonderful group called The Mission Continues, which is a veterans service group that came out, and they provided the lumber and the support and the expertise of building and putting that whole thing together. And then since then, we've added some in-ground beds. In the bottom left corner there, you can see one of the in-ground beds. And one of our very wonderful volunteers, Ms. Harris there, she comes out all the time and is very instrumental in helping, very dedicated to growing, helping us to continue to grow these spaces. The purpose of the gardens, the reason why it was such a big part of this is to not only is what you touched on already, Kara, saying that our program is one of empowerment. So all of the work that we do is designed to the food distribution is for support of the community. We know that everyone, no matter what your lifestyle looks like, you could be in a very dire situation and no one may know about it. So that food is twofold: to help provide some kind level of support, to bring out to get community members so that we can advertise and let them know what it is that we're doing, that we have access to community garden spaces, and to also affect some healthy dietary changes. One of the very earliest things we saw from the food distribution was being able to introduce families to produce that they may not be able to go normally buy, for two reasons. One is because it is in a food desert, which I'm going to come back and talk about later about that. What really is happening is called food apartheid. However, if not having access to that fresh produce, we were able to provide that for them, and then also a lot of times it would be things that they had never eaten before, and didn't not only because they didn't have access to it, but because maybe they came up in a household where their parents didn't eat that kind of produce, and so as children they never learned how to eat it, and so as adults they never ate it. So providing these different kinds of produce to families for free, and then providing recipes and instruction on how to prepare those things through some of our other community partnerships empowers people to now make healthier lifestyle decisions as far as their dietary needs are concerned, and the food that they consume. And then the community garden benefit is empowering because it brings us together, I think, in a more neighborly space. Like gardening and growing of your own produce was something that was always part of what made a community a community, and what made a neighborhood a neighborhood. Like there was one lady down the way she loved growing potatoes and carrots, and somebody else who loved growing peppers and tomatoes, and there was this exchange and this understanding and this neighborly love and communication that we had that I think we have kind of lost in the current generation and situation that we live in. So this is about rebuilding our community stronger and empowering us to reconnect to each other through food. I mean, how sharing a meal with each other is one of the best ways to exchange ideas and cultural identities and really get back to talking to each other. understanding each other better, right? So that's a big portion of why the garden aspect is so important, and setting these spaces up for the community at large to have access to and participate with is so beautiful. And we see connections are made. The amount of community network connections that are made, and the other organizations that come in and that are finding each other and able to then help each other in whatever avenue of community empowerment that they work in, even if it's not focused on food. They were able to meet each other at the garden and then go on to do work together and empower the community in other ways. Mike, did you want to speak on any of that? Some of your experience with the community garden? Hello.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, hey, how y'all doing?
Good. How are you doing? I know we had a few technical issues trying to get you on, but I'm so glad you're here. It would be great to hear from you too, how you got involved in Oak Cliff Veggie Project, and also your experiences with starting a community garden and lessons learned along the way.
Okay. Well, as far as starting the community garden, my passion for growing was rekindled about 4 or 5 years ago. It all started, of course, when you're young in elementary. They have those projects to where you plant a seed and start your plants in a cup and so forth. And after a while, of course, they got away. But as I got older, I got into cooking. I love cooking, but on side of cooking, I always wanted to have my own fresh produce to cook with. And sometimes it be things that are out of season that you want, and I'm like, I would love also something that doesn't have all those GMOs and extra additives in it. And so I started growing herbs and tomatoes and so on and so forth. So after I started growing, and Ples and Miss Montgomery started the community garden project, one of the sites, as you know, that I run, which is Sankofa Community Garden, I started to attend church there. And one of my contributions to the church was starting a community garden, which they had a garden on the grounds years ago that just never took off. And just besides growing for the church, I wanted to do something for the community as well. So therefore, that's how that got started. We started players brought in the tall beds, and we went all the way down to the slightly lower beds, the ground beds, and we started working on what do we want to grow during the seasons, especially with the expansion of the gardens, so everybody won't have the same thing. And one thing I really, really enjoyed about it and is being able to talk to the people about what the food looks like coming from farm to table, because we've seen a lot of people who were shocked as far as knowing what a carrot look like, or a beet, or any kind of vegetable or herb looks like when it comes out the ground. So we further enhanced what we were doing by also offering education. So we offer education. We offer any kind of advice or information on how to cook certain things. They come with a lot of questions, and we are just, how can I say it? We are just excited to answer those questions, and we are excited to see those looks on everybody's face when they light up, when they want to know about the food, or what can you do with it, or how to grow it. And one of the main things were either time or not knowing where to start. So deeper and deeper as I got into it with Ples, on the growing side, I learned other ways to be able to give information on not making it seem so scary on starting your own growth. And one of the main advices we give is always grow what you're going to eat. grow what you're going to eat to start with. Yeah, grow what you know. You don't want to waste anything, especially time. And it has so many benefits, all the way up to therapeutic benefits. So, far as starting a community garden, that's how I got into it. Once it started with helping with the distribution of the produce, then it went over to also we added the garden elements, and I'm more of a love my hands in the dirt type of person. So that automatically drew me in. So now I have the best of both worlds where I can cook and enjoy using and teaching about fresh produce.
This is Georgianne. We have a question from the audience about how, and for either one of you or both, how do you locate the land to start the garden, and what all does it entail to start one?
So I will. I'll take that question. We it's kind of a twofold process. So one of our gardens in the picture here that's up on the screen right now, that's the 10th Street Community Garden location. That garden is one of two gardens that we now have that is located on what would be considered an empty lot, where it was a house at one time, or it was a business at one time, and now there is nothing. There was nothing going on, and the owners, the folks who owned that property, were interested. They had a mind to use that property for some kind of cultivation of fresh produce, and so from there is a process, a step-by-step process that you have to go through with the city if the property is on a vacant land. The first thing you need to do in that case is what I just said, that you have to identify who the ownership is and get permission from that ownership in order to do that. And then there's a process of going to the city of Dallas through the permitting department, as if you were going to develop, like, let's say you buy a piece of land, you're going to develop an apartment complex or a barbershop or whatever. You kind of go to that same department, show them your plans, and then pay for the certificate of occupancy that gives you the right that deems the land as for crop cultivation. And then you go through the process of making sure of getting water access set up. And as on the screen there, you can see Bob Curry with the Urban Ag Department with the City of Dallas can get you more details about making sure that you are going through the right steps to get a water line access set up. It is a little different, so you do have to ask a lot of questions, and that's why we're recommending you to speak to Bob about it, because you don't necessarily need the same type of water meter that you would need if you had an apartment building or a house there or a business there. The other way to do it is a much simpler way, and that is to partner with a school or a church or some business that has a piece of empty land as part of their property and is interested in using that land for cultivation within the community. Again, this is something that you would want to approach them with, approach the ownership of that property, the business that's there, with a plan saying, well, it's not just myself, but we have this organization or we have a team. We will be responsible for maintaining and operating the garden, and then also to make plans for compensating them for the extra water use that would come about. As you are starting a community garden, I cannot stress enough the need to have access to water. Like, you will not be successful if you do not have access to water. And not that you won't be successful, but it makes it that much harder. When we started 10th Street, we did not have water at that garden, like running water at that garden for the first 2 years. And during the summertime, we were literally filling up those big 5-gallon Ozarka type jugs and taking them and filling them at one location. A shout out to Farmers Assisting Retired Military. They allowed us access to their water to fill up our water containers there, and then take their water over to the garden to hand water in that manner. And so we were mildly successful. We were able to keep a few things alive and thriving a little bit, but you have to have secure water access in order to be successful. Also, do not try to bite off more than you can chew. I understand the eagerness and the wanting to start something and have it be beautiful and kind of large and that kind of thing. But start one of the other best advices is to go ahead and start small. At our first garden, we started with 10 of those raised bed boxes and a water hose and a few seedlings, and then we were starting from there. So don't be afraid to make mistakes and to reach out to others who know exactly what they're doing. And we don't know exactly what we are doing. We depend very much on local educators and professionals in farming. So we lean heavily on the skills of Ms. Hayet down at Farm to ask her questions and understand with her. And then sometimes there's going to be community volunteers. There's a wonderful young lady named Michelle who is not affiliated with any specific organization. She just loves gardening and farming, and so she does what she can using her knowledge set to go out and help at different community garden spaces. There's a wonderful young lady named Darcia Houston, who is a very skilled farmer. She has been to other countries to learn about the permaculture practices of creating a full-fledged ecological system where everything is helping each other that you put into the soil. She also trained and worked was the farm director at Paul Quinn College for a certain amount of time. So or you come out to events like ours where it can put you in contact with folks. You got to start building a community and a network around. There's also, and I'm remiss. I'm sorry. There's Kara Casey at the Dallas College Center. They have a great wealth of knowledge and classwork that they are teaching that you can sign up for and take those classes. And then there's always the YouTube University life. Like get into the YouTube videos. Like just start with some basic questions on putting into the searching online about where are you in, what zone are you growing in? We're in North Texas. I believe it's zone 7A. In the national level of zones, and I might be wrong about that, but finding out what zone you're in, finding out what plants you can grow in your area, so that you're not trying to grow something that will not survive based on the amount of heat and humidity that we have, or the soil texture that we have, or just those types of things. So start by researching, like find a place. If there's a business you can partner with, talk to them about doing it, and then go heavy into research and find out if get your soil tested. The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, you can take a soil sample from where you're at. That way, maybe you don't want to do raised beds. Like you'd rather be growing in ground, but you definitely want to get the soil tested there. That's something you want to do very early on in the process as well. The AgriLife Extension can test your soil for you and tell you if there's any kind of toxins in there that would mean that you had to grow in raised beds. There are other advanced techniques that you can remediate even a certain level of toxicity out of soil, but that's not something that's for beginners. That's something for later on down the line. So definitely do your research. Make sure that you have water. Find your farming community garden family in whatever area that you are in. And start building that network to be there to help and support you. There are a lot of us out here, and everybody that I have encountered has been very open and willing to work together. Nobody is going to turn you. I don't think that anybody would turn you down in providing some level of help to get you going in this regard.
We have another question, and that is, how or where do you get compost for your garden?
So we initially were getting all of our compost from a company called Living Earth here in Dallas. They have several sites throughout Dallas that you can buy the compost either in bulk or in individual bags. Since then, we have also been able to partner with Farm. They because of our back and forth partnership, we are able to supply them with some raw organic materials to create the compost, and so they then in turn allow us access to some of their compost to bring into our gardens. And also we have started our own composting operation, and also with Harvest Project Food Rescue. They have a composting program as well. And then we have since started our own composting program And has actually only been possible because we had a volunteer that is very passionate about composting and needing a place to practice and hone her own skills in doing it, that we are able to push that composting program forward. So we are now creating our own compost, and we are working with, and so we work with several other organizations. So we buy it, when we really need quick access to it, we buy it from a local gardening and landscaping soil service, and then we go about creating our own at the same time. Also, another thing that you can do is in raised bed gardening, you can take your own organic waste, so your eggshells, the leftovers from your lettuces, from your onions, from your tomatoes, any parts of these plants that you do not cook. You can collect that. You can add that right into your soil. The banana peels, all those things. You can add that right into get it as deep as you can into your raised bed, and it will break down and provide the nutrition for your plants without having to go through the standard like composting process. And that's a simple way to kind of be able to provide your own homegrown or home wasted nutrition for your gardening operations. If you have a raised bed setup, you can drop those right into the soil. Like, you want to get it as deep as possible, but you can drop those waste products, and then also you want to add in what's called brown matter, which is carbon and nitrogen rich matter. So shredded up cardboard, shredded up newspaper, grass clippings, your leaves clipping, as you are doing any other kind of landscaping. Don't just put those leaves out to be collected by the bulk trash collections. You keep that and mix it into the soil in your raised beds. Spent coffee grounds, spent tea grounds. If you're a big coffee drinker or tea drinker, that is a great source of nitrogen. Also, Texas Worm Ranch. You can purchase. They provide a product called worm castings. And the worm castings is a great source of nitrogen for your plants also. So they're a really great company. They definitely support all the movement and things that we are doing, that the community garden network is doing in the Dallas area as well.
Thank you, Ples. That was a great answer. So basically, you can create it yourself. You can buy it from someone, or you can
participate in a local composting program and take your waste to them. If it feel like it's going to be too messy for them, you can bring it to our program. You can take it to the program at farm down by the farmers market, and that way you can get access to the results of that composting process, right? Or with Harvest Project Food Rescue as well.
Thank you. We have some more questions, and I think the first one actually goes to Kara. It says, have you considered starting or assisting with community gardens on our Dallas College campuses?
So yes. Ples and I and Keith McKinnon, one of our faculty members at Mountain View campus, we've been in discussions about how we can be more collaborative and working in the campus gardens between what they're doing in Oak Cliff Veggie Project and bringing it to Dallas College campuses. So those conversations are still going on. It's just we've had a holdup on our end, on the Dallas College end, because of the pandemic. We just want to be sure that everyone's being safe when we come onto campus. So because we have some larger institutional procedures that we have to follow, we're just waiting until those get updated so that community members can come onto campus and interact with faculty and students. But that is in the works. So in the meantime, I did want to mention we were going to show you a few more examples of different community gardens in the area. Key piece of advice being, it is really helpful to have experience working in a community garden and seeing how they're set up before starting your own community garden. And so we wanted to highlight a few resources for you here. First, the Dallas Coalition for Hunger Solutions has this interactive map, which if you just Google Dallas County Urban Garden Locator Map. It'll come up in your search there. And it lists all of the urban gardens, community gardens that are in Dallas County. And you can zoom in, you can see right in the middle there, Dallas, there's 17 gardens all within that space there. So it's a very helpful tool to find those community gardens that are closest to you.
And on that note, I would also suggest to go and see different iterations. Like, don't just go and to see one. I know it may be on, you may have to travel to the other side of town or what have you, but definitely go and see different variations on what the community gardens can look like, because depending on what your location is, what your soil type is, what kind of sites you have to work with, there definitely are different ways of setting these things up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the different ways to look at is farm. So Ples had already mentioned farm. Hayat El-Jundi, she runs Farmers Assisting Returning Military. They have a really great in-ground production there. So if you want to see what it looks like to grow in-ground instead of in raised box beds, this is a great place to get experience, and it'll help them too by volunteering over there.
One thing about at farm, they have a setup where their entire site is actually on top of a concrete slab. So they have created a very unique kind of in soil growing system there, where they built up these multiple layers of soil and compost and hay and all different types and sand and things, so that they were able to create a layer deep enough in order to still to have the type of setup that you would normally find in an in-ground setup, but it truly is on top of a concrete slab. So again, that's why I'm saying go check out different setup operations. This type of setup that they have is actually very, very old. Like they're building these kind of mounds and layers of different material to create a very very healthy soil, and then doing the cover cropping and introducing the crops that help to introduce nutrients back into the soil, so that you're not always having to bring in outside fertilizer products and that type of thing.
Right.
So, Ples, we have one more question that I think that you've kind of already answered, but I just want to make sure that she knows that we've answered her question. And what can a student who cannot start a community garden on their own do to support local community gardens? And so it sounds like you're saying all of them need volunteer help, and that's the best way to learn what to do.
Community gardens
start your own.
are basically completely dependent on volunteers and the participation of the neighborhoods that they are located in. So if you don't have the ability to start your own community garden, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, definitely take some time and go out and help the different farms of Owenwood, at Farm, at We Over Me. At any of our locations, you can come out to, and Promise of Peace Gardens. Like they are always down to accept volunteers to come out and help that want to, whether you have knowledge or you don't have any knowledge whatsoever. Your presence and your willingness to participate will always be welcome. Yeah, Mill City Teaching Farm, Restorative Farm Program, so many great opportunities. So whether you have experience and you want to lend that to help to build the farm, or you want to learn about it. Yeah, even at Four Down Project is a skate park, but they have a raised bed garden there, and they're going to have a hydroponic setup operation coming soon to their location as well, that we're going to be partnering with them to bring to fruition. So again, definitely just get out and start working with people. I guarantee you will not. It's well worth it.
Well, and we have kind of a follow-up to that. To starting gardens, what is the most difficult part about getting started creating a community garden?
Mike, you got something for that one?
One of the challenges of actually starting a community garden is when, like most things, you start location. Like it's not only like it's definitely soil have a big part to do with it, but it's about knowing the cycle of the sun during the the different seasons. So you can go get a lot to where it's good for one thing that requires full sun, but if you're not aware of that, you can plant different things to where you have maybe some herbs that may be privy to just shade or partial sun. So one, after you just know what you after you know what you want to grow, the next thing is knowing about the cycle of the sun in the area you're growing in. That's the way that'll give you a big leg up on what you want to plant and when to plant. That's if you're interested in doing seasonal planting. The next hard thing is for most things, the hard thing is actually getting some people to help to start with you. Building a team. You have a small group that's very enthusiastic about it, ready to go, but you also have those who are enthusiastic is kind of slow to jump on board because they want to see the progress, see what's going on, see how it's working out, things of that nature. So you have to be mindful of that, trying to keep yourself from being discouraged just because you're not having the outcome or the group of people that you want. It don't have to be a huge group. Just like us, we started with very small, just a few people, and it expanded there because you're going to get people ask questions and really excited about jumping in there, but at the same time, it may take a little bit for them to actually get in there because just like the people who are considered basically your crew or your stockholder, your shareholders, I want to say. And when I say shareholders, I mean the people in your community, the nearby churches, the nearby schools, the person still across the street behind the location. These are people who can give you a big leg up because if you have a group of people who live like across town or further away from the site, then it'll be a little bit more difficult to maintain. So once you start planning, just keep in mind that it's gonna look a little rough at first because everything has its rough stages, especially when like growing hair or whatever. But hang in there, as you get things come in, learn how to companion grow. Like those are some of these vegetables and herbs become vegetations that will bud, that will sprout flowers, that will attract your butterflies and other pollinators. You also want to be sure you have your sacrificial vegetation that eats some of the bugs that allow you to keep the rest of your crop looking plush green, beautiful, have your few flowers. Know what flowers benefit what, because some people don't know that you can actually companion grow with flowers and herbs, flowers and peppers and things like that. So that was one of the main challenges is just remembering to just hang in there, stand tough, and your volunteers are calm. The people that's coming to you asking questions, just be ready to answer those questions, especially with a few tidbits you can throw in there, from, knowing how to rotate your crop, the watering cycle, the sun cycle, so on and so forth. So just stay encouraged, hang in there, continue to talk to people, and be patient because they will come. You will get volunteers.
Yep, and that's the sometimes it's easier to start a garden and it's harder to maintain it if you don't have that community support. So whenever we start a garden, we try to think, who feels responsible for it? Who is going to be disappointed if it doesn't work out, and who feels like it's their, it's their ownership. They feel responsible for making it look as awesome and be as productive as possible. So sometimes it's really easy for gardens to fail because it is a game of perseverance, like Mike said. It is. You have to hang in there. And the best way to grow any enterprise is to start small, think big, and scale. So you start with what you have, you learn things because you learn things in the spring and you learn things in the fall growing season, and then you're ready to start something new in the spring and in the winter and the different cycles. So you can build as you go. Did want to mention there is another guide that's specific to Dallas. So this is really helpful if you want to look this up. It's a guide to getting started urban ag in Dallas, put together by the Dallas Coalition for Hunger Solutions. And a general guide on, oh, go for it.
I was saying that's a very helpful guide. If you were in the Dallas area, like some of the things that we talked about as far as what you need to know about any permits that are required, that kind of thing, it can be found in that guide. Also, things about like further on, like if you are planning on selling anything that's from your garden, like the rules regarding where and when you can do that. If you can do it on site or not, like those types of things. So it kind of covers a wide range of the entire process of any kind of urban agriculture in Dallas, not just specifically like a community garden type setup. If you're trying to start a market garden, like it gives you some information regarding that as well.
Great. And I see Georgianne put the link in the chat there, so you guys can just copy that from the chat. And this community gardening toolkit is also really helpful. It gives some good best practices and guidelines for building that community, like we talked about. And of course, whenever you bring together people can have different opinions over what they want to do. So this toolkit also includes a best practices guide for making collective decisions, getting input, and making sure that the governance is equitable among the whole community garden. And that's produced by University of Missouri Extension. And last tip here before moving on. When you do install water access, again, we're going to start small, so maybe you're hand watering, but if you want to save time and not have to visit the garden every day in the summertime, it is helpful to install some irrigation. So if you do decide to install irrigation, drip line is recommended over a soaker hose. Drip line works really well.
So real quick, Kara, on that note, the reason why that is important is because the time of day that you water your plants, a lot of plants, especially your fruiting plants, is important to understand. As if you water at the height of the heat of the day when it's 100 degrees outside, some kind of like a sprayer system that you would normally see in your like on a lawn, that actually will burn your plants. Like it can be very detrimental to the plants. And where the plants actually need their water is in the soil. So, and then also if it's a windy day and you have a sprinkler system, you may end up water gets blown away. So and a lot of that water never makes it into the soil where the plants that you want to cultivate actually are, and you end up with a big patch of grass next to your bed, and you're wondering like, why am I getting so much grass and I'm not getting results out of my plants here, right? So that's why that's one of the main reasons that like drip line irrigation is much better than some kind of sprayer line irrigation. And then also, as you are hand watering your plants, to remember that while it may be time effective to just kind of randomly like spray the water all over the place to try to cover as much ground as possible, that may end up being detrimental to your plants also. And then also a good rule of thumb is that for your plants, like while it may look as though you have put a good amount of water into your soil, and again, because we have very, very hot summers, if you don't have some kind of ground cover, i.e. some kind of mulch on your soil, or a plant or plants that are providing shade across your soil, that first little bit of water you put on there, the sun is going to burn it off extra fast. So to test that you are getting enough soil into your water, you can just take your pointer finger and kind of push it into the soil. If the soil at the tip of your pointer finger is still dry, then you have not put enough water into that soil. So just a couple of quick tips on watering protocol is very, very important for especially for our region, because it does get so very hot.
Great. Love it. And good sources of mulch. There are some good free wood chip sources around town. Which ones do you use the most, Ples?
So we actually partnered with a group they were remediating cleaning up the Oak Cliff Cemetery, which is located in the 10th Street Community District, which is one of our historic freedmen towns in the Dallas area. And we were able to capture all of the chips that they produce from the trees that they cut down in that area. We also will buy bulk mulch from Living Earth, or just use. It's always good to put down a layer of again your leaf clippings and that. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find it in my text messages here. Somebody actually just sent me a company that you can contact, and they will bring you the mulch. It's like a tree service that you can contact, and they will bring you that free mulch. If I can find
Texas
it.
Tree something. We also use just shredded newspaper within our containers at El Centro. Sometimes wood chips are a little bit cumbersome in containers, depending on how big those containers are. So shredded newspaper works for us, and it does tend to blow around a little bit, so you just wet it down when you first put it on the soil, and then it'll kind of form almost a paper mache consistency that's still porous, so water will get through, but it doesn't blow around after it's wetted on the soil.
Ground cover is very, very paramount to the success and the health of your soil, especially in raised beds. You have to fertilize your raised beds at a higher rate. You will lose water from them at a higher rate. The ground temperature in your raised bed is likely to be like the same way you're standing out in the sun and you're like, oh, it's 90 degrees. Well, for the soil and your plant's root system, it could be 110 degrees for them. So that's why making sure you get ample amounts of water in and that there's cover on the soil to help keep it cool also speaks directly to the health of your plant. So Lindsay Tree Services, you can just Google them. It's Lindsay Tree Services, LINDSEY Tree Services. You can contact them, and it may not be an on-demand type thing, but as they are doing more jobs, you can contact them about going to pick up mulch from them, from the trees that they are cutting down, or depending on how much you need, they may even come and deliver it to you. And that's one of the local free services as well. But if you just Google, you can also Google like free mulch in Dallas, and there will be several links that will come up. And you can contact those services and see what they can get for you.
Great.
Sarah, I have one other question. This came from quite a while back, and I think Mike kind of addressed it a little bit, but she's wanting to know, how do you control for pests, especially, I'm looking now, I've lost it, especially flies, white flies, and aphids?
So that is that's going to be an ongoing battle for you. And one of the ways to do it organically is you can find an organic spray or you can look up online like an organic mixture to take care of, because whiteflies and aphids are soft-bodied bugs that basically suck the sap out of your plants. What you want to do is put some kind of combination of, you can use a diluted soap, like a dish soap, dilute that down with some water. You can spray that on them. It will dehydrate their bodies, and they will expire in that manner, right? The other thing you can do is introduce ladybugs. They are predators for those are predatory insects that are beneficial for your garden because they eat aphids. So researching what your predatory beneficial bugs are relative to the bugs that you know that you will have problems with, and then introducing those into your garden, or making sure that you are putting plants in that introduce those. Also, and this is only one plant that I know of that does this, nasturtiums are, like, while they are beautiful, the flowers are also edible. You can use them as a barrier plant, because the aphids would be attracted to the nasturtiums, and then they won't go in and take out your cucumbers and your melons and kill those off, right? So it's just a mix of learning the different ways. That's what the companion planting is about. It's providing protection from bugs. And then there's other predatory bugs you can bring in, and then there are spray mixtures, organic spray mixtures that will not harm your plants, but will dehydrate and kill off those bugs.
Right. One thing I just wanted to add to that wonderful answer is one of the things that you can prevent aphid and whitefly infestations by being mindful of the seasonal preference of those plants. So for instance, if you're growing mustard or broccoli in the heat of summer, that is not going to go very well. The plants are going to be stressed. They're more cold tolerant. So if a freeze comes through, they're fine. But when it gets really hot, they do not do well, and they end up emitting stress hormones that attract insects and pests to those stress plants. So if you're seeing a lot of insects specifically eating the leaves of your plants, be sure they're getting enough water, and be sure you're not trying to plant them during a time of year that is not beneficial for their growth.
Thank you. And we have, I think, a really good question here. I love it. It's, hello, what can I do that doesn't require extensive hours of physical work besides monetary or donations? So are there any jobs at community gardens other than, you know, for people who can't do physical work? Do you have other needs to help?
So for our operation specifically, we do food distributions, the produce distributions at on the Saturdays at the same time that we're doing the garden workshop as well. So that is not very physically intensive. The preparation of those bags, or working at the point of the distribution, so that you are just taking the bag and loading it into the car for the person that is receiving it, or even making just taking and doing a few deliveries within the zip code of where we are at. Also, if you enjoy cooking, we partner with an operation called Latinx Dallas, and another operation called Feed the People Dallas. They Feed the People they bring in other household items, so dry goods and pasta sauces and other things of that nature, even laundry detergent, sometimes diapers, and they set up distributions for those kinds of things as well. So that's not as physically intensive as it would be to, like, shovel in the soil and laying out the compost and digging into the soil, that kind of thing. And then even at the gardens, if there's an irrigation system set up and all it requires you to do is come in at a certain time and turn it on, and then you can go and have your coffee and your breakfast or what have you, and then you come back 30, 45 minutes later and turn the water off, right? So there are ways that you can participate and be part of the team that's making sure. And then there's the days that maybe all you do is come in and help with the harvest on the weekends, when we are actually harvesting everything up, and there's one person that's actually kind of clipping everything off, and then you are helping with just like rubber banding and wrapping up the things that are being harvested, or washing them off, so that we can then take and put them as part of the distribution. So we have several other things. You can also you can cultivate. If you have space at your home, you can take seeds and start the seeds for us, or not just for us, for yourself or for any other operation, in the cups at your home, and those are very lightly, that's not very physically intensive to have a shelf and have those the seedlings to help them germinate and grow to the right level and strength that they need to be at in order to transplant them in.
And
Thank you so much. There's just one more question, and then I'll let Kara wrap it up. And it's a quick question: is recommended height for the raised beds?
So that is that's going to depend on that. That actually goes back to the last question. If you know that you do not want to be down like on your hands and knees, then you can. There's a great program called Victory Garden DTX, Victory Gardens Dallas. You can look them up online or on Instagram, on Facebook. They actually build raised beds that are like tabletop height or waist height, so maybe like 3.5 feet tall. That make it easier for you to access those beds. So the height of your raised bed can be, but at the same time, you want the depth of your raised bed to be at least 12 inches deep as far as the soil level is concerned. Ideally, you would probably go to 18, 24 inches, depending on the type of plants that you are cultivating. Tomatoes need a lot of space for their roots to establish in order to bring in the amount of nutrients to grow big. So your leafy greens and stuff, maybe you could probably get away with a 12-inch depth of soil. Some of your fruiting plants, you're going to need a deeper level of soil in order for them to establish the kind of root systems and there be enough nutrients in that soil to provide for the kind of growth that you want to see from those plants.
Right. So we have a few events on the screen here for folks if you want to screenshot it. These are some upcoming events with the Oak Cliff Veggie Project, and you can meet Ples and Mike firsthand. Just wanted to wrap up and give a shout out to Dallas College. If you want to learn a little bit more about agriculture and how to grow your own food, we offer agronomy courses, horticulture courses, and we have a webinar coming up about the Texas A&M University Commerce brand new agriculture academy that is all based in Dallas on Tuesday, May 4th at 12 o'clock. So same time, just a few weeks away. And last but not least, this is a shout out to all the sponsors of Oak Cliff Veggie Project. And I want to thank Mike and Ples for being such an informative presentation today.
Yeah, so the list you see here is some of our community partners. Just really quickly that not everybody has to work. Maybe you want to be a part of something that is helping to empower the community, but you don't want to necessarily get into the soil and or do composting or something like that. Several of these organizations, the Baba Holistics is part of, or Black to Life is a reading group where they have a live reading for children, and they collect books and then distribute those books out to schools and to daycare facilities. Quap Cares, they collect everything from gently used clothing and then distribute it to some of the houseless population members. They have gotten kind of the prepaid cell phones. They set up wash stations. They create hot meals for the houseless community. The Lullaby House is a really great program that helps young women who have come out of foster care, but also have children of their own. So they are very young single mothers, and they help to train them and give them places to stay and care, so that they become good mothers and go on to become good mothers themselves. The Lone Star Human Services actually works directly at low-income apartment complexes to provide free food programs for after school. They set up computer centers, reading and tutoring with math programs. And then Latinx is one of our best partners that they create hot meals for volunteer operations. So any of these groups that are doing a volunteer event, Latinx will come in and we provide the produce for it, and they make a nice, healthy, plant-based meal for that volunteer event. So if you have your own volunteer event going on, you can reach out to them to come and partner with you to provide healthy meals rather than just pizza and donuts for your volunteers. If you're interested in learning some about hydroponics as well, We also have a very small hydroponics division of the Veggie Project that we don't talk about all the time, but it's slowly coming online as a kind of as a like a revenue generation portion of the project. But I have worked in hydroponics for the last 4 or 5 years and know a good deal about it. I've taught lessons at Boys and Girls Clubs and at different schools across the Metroplex. So if that's something that you want to bring to your program, to your education program, that we can partner with you. Also, Veggie Project will partner with your school or your daycare to get some lessons in for the youth. So if you have a summer camp or something like that, we'd love to partner with you to bring the kids out and get some lessons going this summer for you.
Thank you. Thank you again. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Ready. Bye-bye.